Good morning and welcome to the Film Now Show. We're going to not only discuss reviews on some of the latest movies, but we're going to take it back a couple years, actually a couple decades, and talk about some of your old favorites. I'm Stella, and this is my co-host, Daniel.
And good morning to you. Today, we're going to be focusing on the new Hollywood era, which lasted from about the 70s to the present. Each one of those decades will be analyzing a few movies and picking a common theme between those films.
I'm personally very excited. I mean, I love movies.
Aren't they great?
They are. They're good all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. They have movies for every kind of mood that you're in.
And each decade within this era that we're looking at does have amazing continuity between what gets made during that time. And it is pretty amazing to look back and see, you know, what was going on. So the first.
It's crazy looking back even just to our movies today from the 70s compared to the ones that are more recent. I mean, there's some big differences.
Maybe we should take a look at one of those
movies
from the 70s.
Let's take it back about 40 years.
You believe that America is the land of opportunity. Apollo Creed does. And he's going to prove it to the whole world by giving an unknown a shot at the title. And that unknown is you. It's the chance of a lifetime. You can't pass it by.
His name is Rocky. His whole life was a 1,000,000 to 1 shot.
Oh, man. They says to me, you weren't born much of a brain, you know, so you better start using your body, right? So I've become a fighter.
Time, kid. Let's go.
My mother, she said you weren't born much of a body, so you better develop your brain.
The electricity is all over the place tonight as Rocky Balboa.
You know, I've been coming in for 6 years. 6 years you've been sticking it to me. I want to know how come.
You want to know? I want to know how. Because you had the talent to become a good fighter.
How about I wait here and you fight?
Aping is a loser.
You're looking very great today, you know that?
And if you don't watch out, you're going to end up dying alone.
I gotta go now, but don't you leave town, huh?
And you're going to end up dying alone. I don't see no crowd around you, neither.
Wish me luck, I'm gonna need it.
Our 50-to-1 underdog living a Cinderella story.
I think we make a real sharp couple of coconuts. I'm done with your shot. What do you think?
All right, and that was Rocky from the 1970s.
Well, that sure brings us back, doesn't it?
Oh, way back.
Maybe some of us weren't quite around that time, but some of us were. And, you know, just looking at that clip, I was brought back to really what it felt like to see that. And it is a film of triumph and of persevering and of overcoming odds. And it's so inspirational.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to be honest, I actually haven't seen Rocky.
You
and
haven't?
I know, it's disappointing.
Well, let me tell you, you really should go out and see it because, like I said, it does give you just these feelings that you can overcome any obstacle. Sylvester Stallone in that, Rocky Balboa, you know, doesn't come across as the smartest person, but he keeps trying. And he does win in the end. I mean, not to ruin the film for you, but you probably could have found that out.
I mean, I probably would have guessed, but, you know, we need more movies like that today.
You think?
Just inspirational. I feel like I haven't seen a good inspirational movie in quite a while.
There are quite a number of films that came from this era, the 70s, that maybe you have seen, like maybe Star Wars. Oh, come on.
I have seen Star Wars, but it's been a while.
Really? Well, you know, there's another one of overcoming odds, the little guy triumphing over the big, well, in that case, the big evil empire. But even in Rocky, it's the same thing. Somebody that's maybe not handed everything, they're able to overcome the obstacles that are set before them. So there's Rocky, there's Star Wars. What are some other movies that we could think of from that era?
You know, I have seen The Godfather.
Have you? See, I have not. Why don't you talk a bit about that?
I love The Godfather. It's probably in my top 3 favorites of all time right now, or of all my time right now.
Yeah.
But it's so good. I mean, it's a classic.
Is there that same type of triumph and persevering in that?
You know, it depends on how you look at it. The Godfather keeps going. I mean, it starts with the main Don, and then it goes on to his son, and then his son has a son. The next movie is about his son. So it just kind of, it goes on. So it's more like, not sure how you describe it. Like, it kind of just flows through like the lifespans of all the children. But I mean, it's really good. It's more just like you want to keep watching. You want to see what they're gonna do, because it's kind of like a whole new world that you don't really know about. You know, like, I mean, I personally don't know anything about the mob world, so kind of takes you out there and yeah. Yeah.
So what did it make you feel when you, and were you watching these as a child or as an adult?
This was probably, I would say I watched them when I was maybe 15. So I can't say I really knew too much of what was going on, but they were my dad's favorite movies. And so it was a good bonding time, and he'd kind of explain to me like what, you know, sleeping with the fishes meant and all that kind of stuff. So
what does that mean?
You know, I don't know. I would tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
So I guess I should just see the movie myself.
You should definitely see the movie.
Learned that, you know, I haven't seen some classic films like The Godfather, and you, with Star Wars and Rocky, need to refresh yourself on those also, which is what happens when you have movies that are going back decades. You know, as we'll see later on, I think we've both probably seen more current movies.
And it's funny because there's always that person when you tell them that you haven't seen a movie that's like, what? You haven't seen it? That's the best movie ever. And you're like, well, I guess I have to go rent it or something. I mean, I really want to watch Rocky now. Just the clip was exciting itself, so.
Well, that's another thing. You know, in this day and age, we have access like we didn't in the 70s. You know, that's a big difference. In the 70s, you wanted to see Rocky, you went to the movie theater. It stopped playing, you didn't get to see it. You know,
very true.
Today, Netflix, Hulu, anything online, YouTube, these movies are just there to watch whenever you want, on your phone if you want to.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes a big difference.
It's so much more convenient now.
But you could still experience those moments of triumph in films like Rocky, and I have to say Star Wars, because that was a formative film for me, and I'm just amazed you don't know it line by line.
I feel like I almost should, but it's just, I do remember it being good though, but it must have been 15 years ago that I watched it, so I need to rewatch them. How many is there?
Star Wars movies?
Yeah, there's quite a few, I think.
6,
Six?
I believe. Yes.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely have to get on that. But for now, let's jump forward a decade and take it to the 1980s and check out the Goonies.
They call themselves the Goonies. They've stumbled onto a legend, but they're not alone.
Chunk, I hope that was your stomach.
No. That's the it. Sounds like calm.
Discover what they uncover.
Rubies and emeralds and diamonds.
The lost map.
Oh, this started the tunnel.
The secret caves. The hidden clues. The treacherous traps.
Hello, Sheriff. I'm at the Lighthouse Lounge, and I want to report a murder.
Just like that last prank about all those little creatures that multiply when you throw water on them.
Take the oath. Join the adventure.
Now, my mama's always telling me how Mary...
All right, that was the Goonies from the 1980s. I love the Goonies.
Sadly enough, I have to say I've never seen it either.
So you wouldn't even know what the truffle shuffle is then?
Will you show us?
Nope.
No.
But you're going to have to see the movie. You'll know what it is.
Okay.
I'm sure any Goonies fan, though, could describe it to you pretty well, but I'll just let you watch the movie.
So what was the movie like for you? What did it mean to you when you saw this movie?
Oh, it was exciting. I was young then, and adventure was just the greatest thing. And the entire movie is about these kids that were around my age when I was watching it, that went on this crazy adventure, and I'm not going to tell you how it ended, but it was good. And there was, of course, like all of the things that got in their way and all of that throughout, and you know, there's the bad guys and everything, but they ended up going through like these caves and all this crazy stuff, and it was just exciting. It just made you want to go on an adventure.
It sounds almost like a video game the way you describe it.
I mean, they could probably make a video game of it. They can make a video game of anything, but.
So did it inspire you to actually go out in the world and have adventures?
Yeah, I wouldn't say real adventures, but as adventurous as you can get in your backyard.
Which is all a kid needs, really. You know?
Exactly. I mean, there was much more adventurous movies, like, let's say, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Now that's one.
Bigger scale adventure there, but.
Definitely that I saw. In fact, that was a really important movie also with the Star Wars ones. It was right around the same time when I was pretty much the perfect age for that. Raiders of the Lost Ark. I haven't seen it in quite a while, but I know that was something that I like lived for at that age. You know, I was probably 9 or something like that, and when it came out, and it was definitely just a wild ride. I mean, it was a great. I guess that's the common theme probably in all these is adventure. You know, the '80s had a lot of adventure movies, adventure and exploring and exciting, but also with I'd say a bit more reality or a bit more heart than maybe some of the adventure movies that come out today.
It's more realistic.
Just spectacle. This is, I mean, Raiders was pretty spectacle-like also.
Yeah.
but he was a character that you could relate to as a kid, that you could look up to as like a hero.
Yeah, he was like a superhero in his own kind of.
But still,
you know, like, yeah, exactly. So he was relatable. Like, you'd almost be like, I could do that, even though, you know, you can't, but it was there.
I was trying to use a whip.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have a real whip. It was probably a cord or something like that. But yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong with Indiana Jones, though. He has it all.
Yeah. And there were, actually, thinking back on that movie, there were some parts of it that were kind of intense probably for a kid. I'm remembering at the end with the lightning shooting and melting faces and things like that. But that isn't really what I took out of the movie. It was the quality of adventure.
Yeah, it had a great sense of adventure. You want to grab your friends and be like, let's go find some hidden temple or travel through a jungle or something. Like,
you know, as you're saying that, it makes me think of another movie from the 80s, E.T.
E.T.
Which was, you know, an adventure. It was sad. I remember crying as a kid when it was on. I could say that now. But it was a definite adventure also, with a heart. In fact, he's got the whole heart light thing. It's a total heart in that. And God, they were made by the same people too. Maybe that had, because it was Spielberg that made both of those, I believe. And Star Wars and Raiders was also Lucas that was involved in both of those. And so.
Yeah. Well, speaking of heart, our next movie has a lot of heart. So let's go to the 1990s with Forrest Gump.
Now, my mama's always telling me how miracles happen every day. Some people don't think so, but they do.
You can come home with me to my house in Greenbow. I'll take care of you.
Why are you so good to me?
You're my girl.
Paramount Pictures presents Tom Hanks.
I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
Robin Wright.
Will you marry me? I'd make a good husband, Jenny.
You would, Forrest.
But you won't marry me.
Gary Sinise.
I never thanked you for saving my life.
And Sally Field.
My boy Forrest is going to get the same opportunities as everyone else.
A film by Robert Zemeckis.
What's my destiny, Mom?
You're going to have to figure that out for yourself.
The world will never seem the same once you've seen it through the eyes of Forrest Gump.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
right, that was Forrest Gump from the 1990s. Another definite favorite of mine. It's inspirational, right? It's fun and it's funny, but also is kind of sad. I mean, the movie has a lot going for it, really.
Well, and what's so interesting about it is that it deals with actual events. I mean, it was kind of like that TV show, The Wonder Years. I don't know if you remember that, but that was like, you know, back in the 60s or something like that is what it was supposed to be. And I think it was really popular at the time that Forrest Gump came out. And it dealt with real life situations, and Forrest Gump also. I mean, there's so many things in there that it was a progression of the history that people that were going to see it had just lived over the past 30 years.
Exactly,
and I think that was one of the big draws towards it.
And they throw in some humorous stuff too, like, for instance, when he taught Elvis how to dance.
Oh, I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's parts like that where you just pick up on like, oh, I see what you did there, you know, and it's funny. Like, and it just, I love it. I think it's hilarious, but at the same time, you know, it's a tearjerker, you know? There's some parts and I'm just like, you know?
You know, and thinking back on it, I think they really did use, like, almost every major event that had happened in the past 30 or 40 years, Forrest Gump was one of the causes of it. Which is pretty funny when you look at it now and wild, but it was maybe more poignant at the time. So this is the 1990s we're talking about. There are other big movies that were had a lot of effect at that time. I'm thinking another historical one, you know, based on historic events, Schindler's List.
Oh, Schindler's List.
Hard movie to see.
I bawled throughout that. I didn't even finish the movie. I think I maybe watched 20 minutes of it, and I was crying so hard that I had to leave the room. I couldn't do it. Such a sad movie, but such a powerful movie at the same time.
Definitely.
I mean, I should, now that I'm older, I should probably try and go and finish the whole thing and see, but at the time I was just like, this is a rough one to watch for me. But
well, then as far as, you know, it's one of the first ones I could remember is that was pretty much a war film. That was not there to glorify war or to see the detrimental effects it has on the people fighting. I mean, because it was about concentration camps. I mean, that's a hard subject to make a film on and have it be a film that people are going to go see, because it's not a fun time in our history. No. And but I think that was Spielberg as well. There's a lot of Spielberg movies that we're talking about today.
Oh, he's a genius.
Yeah, I guess so. But that was definitely, it's even a hard movie to talk about, actually, when it comes down to it.
It is. Every time somebody asks me, you know, like, what kind of movies do you like or anything, I'm like, you know, not movies that make me cry. I'm not a fan, but that one I actually thought was really good. I mean, I'm not, you know, like most people, I'm not a fan of crying. But that one, it was just like, this is such a good movie. And
okay, what are some other movies from the 90s that might still, if the theme is dealing with historic events, and was JFK? I think that might have been in the 90s. That was a Oliver Stone movie, I believe.
I haven't seen that one.
Okay.
What about Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah, another war one.
That was,
I think that might have been Spielberg also.
Yeah, probably.
I think so, yeah. They had the mounted cameras, I think, for the first time, so it felt like you were running in with the soldiers and the bullets and everything. Another
Which was
war
exciting.
Movie that was, yeah, definitely exciting, and puts people in a place where they're dealing with a situation they hear about, but they don't actually feel like they experience. And I think it could teach people a lot.
It can, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's an exciting movie to watch and kind of be brought into. So, but another world that we can be brought into. So let's try and jump into the 2000s with Star Wars in a totally another world.
How about we do Lord of the Rings instead?
Come where you were born.
We can do Lord of the Rings.
He makes a murderer! I'm not sending him away.
Come to me.
The border's set. The pieces are moving.
He is here.
We got to it at last.
I see in your eyes the same fear that would take the heart of me. A day may come when the courage of men fails. When we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Whatever happens, stay with me.
This day, we fight!
All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
We shall see the Shire again.
You gave away your life's grace. I cannot protect you anymore. We cannot achieve victory through strength of arms. Not for ourselves, but we can give Frodo a chance.
Okay, that was The Lord of the Rings from 2000. That's another one that I've actually only seen bits and pieces of that one, but I've heard wonderful things.
And bits and pieces are almost enough because each bit and piece is so much fantasy and adventure and just wild living. And it's crazy because, you know, obviously they're both based on the books that were written back in the 40s, I believe. But it wasn't until the 2000s for a lot of the movies that came out there where the technology was there to actually bring the world to life.
And that's the most exciting part, is being a part of this whole new world. Kind of getting out of your reality, and that draws people in.
Yeah, as the viewer, it really is something that takes you away, not even just from where you're at into another place, because all movies do that, but into a totally created world with detail. Star Wars back in the 70s, you know, it was pretty simplistic when it comes down to it compared to Lord of the Rings, which is, I mean, so vast in the portrayal that they can make using the computer technologies today.
Yeah, it's a big difference. I mean, all the technology makes all the difference, really.
Because there's the Lord of the Rings ones, well, the new Star Wars ones came out then in the 2000s. There's, or maybe a little before, but there's the Harry Potter movies.
Oh, Harry Potter. I'm such a Potter fan.
There's like, what, 15 of them now?
Pretty much. I mean, we had an entire, when the last one came out, we had an entire movie marathon and watched all of them. It took us about an entire night, and then we went to the new one, and it was just
a cute thing
huge
to do.
thing. It was a pretty cute thing. I mean, me and all my friends are there with sleeping bags and just movies, and we made. Have you seen the Harry Potters?
I've seen 1.5 maybe.
Yeah. Well, we made all the food and stuff. Like we had like the jelly beans with all the gross flavors and all of that.
Wow,
so
you're like real Potter people.
Oh yeah. And see, and that's what movies can do that for you. You just get so into it that you just want to be a part of it.
Well, and that's the other thing with movies that are made with so much more computer technology and graphics technology and special effects technology. Tie that to the fact that these movies are being made in big series. You know, Harry Potter, there probably is 6 movies or something. And the fact that we can watch them on demand now. I mean, it's really easy to just immerse yourself in a world. And I'm sure that has profound social effects in our real world also, you know, with people being plugged into these fantasy stories much more, and then somehow bringing parts of that back into their real lives. And it's affecting people in good or bad ways, who knows, but, you know, in ways that didn't happen back in the 70s. Even the 80s, even the 90s.
And it gets more and more stretched out. I mean, take The Matrix, for example.
Yeah, that was a wild movie.
Yeah, I mean, that gets pretty out there.
Yeah, but I loved that movie, the first one. The 2 that came after didn't really do much for me. Because by then, the total intrigue and suspense and the mental trip of figuring it all out was gone by then. And I think that's what made the original one so intriguing and exciting, was because you don't know what's going on as you experience the movie.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to keep up with this whole not reality thing when you're enjoying it all at the same time. And I mean, it's a crazy experience. It just, like we were saying, it takes you to a whole nother world.
I guess that is the common theme with the 2000s movies, that so much of it does take you to another world. It is a crazy experience. It is something you cannot experience in our real life.
Yeah. Well, and then speaking on that, to take it even deeper, let's go forward another decade and check out Inception.
an idea. A single idea from the human mind can build cities. An idea can transform the world and rewrite all the rules. Which is why I have to steal it.
Never recreate from your memory. Always imagine new places.
He's hiding something, and we need to find out what that is.
We gotta break out of here. Give him the kick. It's what's not a part of the plane. Wake me up! Wake me up!
All right, so that was Inception. I mean, that movie is mind-blowing.
That's what I hear. I had never seen it, but it sounds like it was a good segue from The Matrix. It sounds like maybe this is like The Matrix Plus.
Yeah, I mean, you have to really sit down and watch this movie. Otherwise, you're gonna be like, I have no idea what's going on. But I mean, if you do, and if you can keep up, it's a really good movie. It's just completely out there. And it's about, I mean, it's a dream within a dream within a dream, like all of this, and it's kind of almost what you wish you could do when you know, when you go to sleep and you kind of wish like, man, or when you wake up, I guess, and you're like, man, I wish I could have done this in my dream and whatever. Like, you have control of your dreams, pretty much. And so it's like, you can do crazy things, and I feel like that makes it pretty exciting, because who doesn't want to be able to do that, you know?
Well, and that's interesting, because just hearing you talk about it, it sounds like, wow, that would be a complex movie to make, and make it that people could follow and enjoy, but it sounds like they did, so I think that's one I'll need to check out.
And that's funny, like, so complex, how you were saying that, it's all of the newer movies from today have so much going on. Like, just how we were talking about technological aspects earlier, they have so much crazy new things that they're using. And
it probably speaks to us as a culture now. You know, the narrative now is becoming more and more complex. We're able to, you know, once again, Star Wars, great, but pretty simplistic. The first one. You know, the new Star Wars, much more complex. The new movies that are being made now, like we talked about, you know, the Inception one, there's all the Batman ones, you know, all the superhero ones are very complex, not just visually, but also the story-wise.
Yeah.
And that might not have had an audience back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I mean, even if you just think, though, Batman.
Yeah.
How many explosions and cars they have flipping, and I don't know if they have helicopters, but, you know, crashing, stuff like that. Like, I mean, money, time, technology, someone has to come up with how this is going to go, you know, right, and have it, all of that, you know, like, it's just crazy, like, how far we've progressed from, like, when we were first showing our first clip from the 70s to now. It's almost ridiculous, like, the change.
And I'm thinking, for me personally, I have kids now, so one movie that came out recently was How to Train Your Dragon. And comparing, and it's animated, but comparing that to Tom and Jerry, you know, when I was a kid, animations that might have been around, once more, it's very much more complex, not even just visually, but the story itself and the character, the depth of the characters involved and everything. And if you haven't seen that movie, that's a great one also for any age.
My favorite cartoon movie, How to Train Your Dragon, I love that one.
Yeah.
By far my favorite cartoon. It's so good.
I think we call it animation now.
And by far my favorite animation. But now they have, you know, the computers to do it, and they don't have to draw it out or, you know, whatever it was. Like, and that makes it so much better. And I'm sure, I mean, I would assume I don't know if it makes it faster
to
or
produce the movie.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that.
Yeah.
But they still have effects. You know, that's one of the final things I'd have to say. You know, we see the progression of movies and the technology and the depth of character and the narration being much more complex, but it still has similar effects on us. It still brings us to new places in life.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, that's all the time we have for today. So thanks for watching, and join us again next time.